Today I wanted to do a review of the Steampunk Tarot by Barbara Moore with illustrations by Ali Fell. That's the book, as you can see, extensive guidebook that accompanies the deck. I purchased this deck back in the late summer of last year, and even though I liked the illustrations, I wasn't very drawn to use the deck. In fact, it kind of just was there for quite a while. It wasn't until the last few months that I started really working with the deck and getting to know it, in reading the guidebook, and I did a few large spreads for myself, and then I felt moved over the past week to start using it with a few of my tarot clients. And the deck has been very, very insightful, and the messages are quite clear that end up coming across with this deck. So I actually really, really like this deck. I just find it interesting that it took me so long to start working with it. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, crazy puppy. So let me show you what the back of the deck looks like. The 4 elements are represented there, and it has a steampunk kind of gear pattern on it. It's really, really beautiful. The size of the cards are, well, this is a Deviant Moon Tarot card, and this is the Steampunk. So you can see that they're not as long as like the Deviant Moon, but they're wider, and they shuffle really well. Like something about the type of paper or whatever that they ended up using, the coating for these, shuffles really well. I actually really like the way that they feel as you're working with them. I can see where they do kind of have a tendency to get nicked and kind of scratch a little easily, but I don't really like kind of mishandle my decks or have them in situations where they're getting bumped around and kind of scratched and wrecked a lot. So my decks tend to last a really long time, and I certainly won't be mistreating this deck. We'll treat it with care. So I'm not really worried about that. But if that's a concern for you, then be aware that, that they are pretty thin, and it looks like they could scratch, especially with the black border, relatively easily. So let me get into the card images that I really, really loved in this deck, and there's actually quite a few. And I'll show you the ones that I really, really enjoyed. Page of Swords. The colors are just what you would think with steampunk. They're dark and rich. So if that bothers you in a deck and you want a lot of light and bright colors, then this might not be the deck choice for you, but I actually really love the darkness and kind of moodiness of the colors with this deck. This is the Star. The Knight of Cups. I love that one. Strength. The Queen of Swords. She is so beautiful in this deck. And at first I was a little confused by almost kind of how delicate she looks, but in the guidebook it's clearly explained. The Page of Wands. I really, really love. Sorry about Talula barking. Knight of Swords. I really love the interpretations of the court cards. I really, really love them in this deck, and you can tell that I have quite a few of them. 8 of Swords. Temperance is absolutely gorgeous. In fact, this would make a great tattoo. She's beautiful in this deck. 3 of Cups. You can tell, like from this one too, like the kind of darker, moodier tone that the deck has. The Hanged Man. The Moon. I don't like the kind of Rider-Waite-Smith representation of the moon typically. It just doesn't do it for me. I don't think the moon is necessarily the type of card a lot of people associate it with being. But I do like this representation, even though it's very close to the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith. The Empress. Love this one. The Knight of Wands. So beautiful. 9 of Pentacles. 2 of Pentacles. the Ace of Cups, the Tower. I like the representation of the Tower in this deck. The Page of Pentacles, the Two of Swords, the Seven of Wands. I just feel like the depiction of the Seven of Wands in this deck is it's very easy to interpret when it shows up, and it really speaks to that Seven of Cups. For some reason, I just love how they have it set up in that deck. The Chariot. This was an interesting depiction of, and here's Talula, the High Priestess. But I do actually really like it. The Hermit. Just going to move her really quickly. And I actually, oh, I just showed the Hermit. I love this representation of the world, and this would make another great tattoo. Like, it's just so gorgeous. And the elements are represented there. The Ace of Pentacles, for some reason, again, even though it's like kind of more traditional Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism, I just love the Ace of Pentacles in this deck. Here's the image of Death. At first I wasn't necessarily in love with this, but through readings for others, when the Death card shows up, I don't know, it's just something about this image that it really speaks to me in a unique and different way than with some of my other decks. And then the Magician. So as you can see, I have quite a few cards that I actually really, really liked. There's only a few that I'm not nutso about, and it's more just because, just because aesthetically maybe I don't find it particularly pleasing. And like I said, there's not too much that I don't love. This Wheel of Fortune, even though it has the astrological symbols and the elements and the pentacle, and I absolutely love that, for some reason it just doesn't. It's not that I dislike it. It's just not my favorite representation of the Wheel of Fortune. Six of Pentacles, I'm not necessarily in love with representation of. Okay, the image for the Sun really does not do it for me either. There's the Sun. And Talula is nibbling on my tarot bag. The Hierophant, I get why they chose this image, but it's not necessarily aesthetically pleasing to me, even though I get it and it makes sense. The Queen of Pentacles, they went with more of a like 20s feel. And while I think the card's absolutely beautiful, I find that interesting that for the Pentacles they went with that. It's just an interesting card. It's not necessarily my favorite representation. There's one that I don't really love, the Fool, but only because I just don't, that image doesn't do it for me for the Fool. It's still beautiful artwork. Oh, this one, Nine of Cups. That's the one I was looking for. I get it now that I've read the guidebook, but I don't really get it at the same time. It just doesn't quite do it for me. It's not, not the most beautiful thing ever. However, as you can see, Justice is really beautiful too. I left her out. You can see that, like, for the most part, the images are just absolutely beautiful, even if they're a little different. But some of them really do follow Rider-Waite-Smith symbolism, and Barbara Moore says that was done on purpose. So let's get into the guidebook. Yay! If you're looking for your first deck and you're drawn to steampunk, this is a great first deck, and especially because you get such a great guidebook. It's 294 pages long. And I really, really recommend when, if you decide to get this deck, that you actually take the time to read the entire guidebook, because there's a lot of really great explanation that she gives for the card meanings and why certain images were chosen. She gives you a lot of insight into, you know, why the deck is the way that it is, and it helps you to really work with the deck. And she also gives some refreshing meanings, some different ways to look at some of the cards that you might have, for the most part, your own set meaning for. She gives you a new way to look at it. So I really, really love the Steampunk Tarot Guidebook. Let me show you. The introduction is, you know, like the beginning part that's talking about tarot and, you know, why they chose to make this deck. That's 44 pages long, and then you get into the major arcana. And the scroll work and everything is beautiful. You get a full page I've lost the word. But you know what I mean. You get a full page of the card, of the image of the card. Reproduction. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Reproduction of the card. And I really love that with this deck. And then you get quite a lengthy meaning. There are reading tips for certain cards. She also writes like a little blurb of kind of like what the character of the card would say, like the Fool. His little blurb is, up here everything looks a little magical, and then she has a core meaning the moment before the first step is taken, and then she goes in depth into the card, and she does that for all of the cards. After the major arcana, there are the minor arcana, and then she talks about the court cards. I really love her explanation for the court cards and her meanings. They're very clear and very helpful, especially if you're just starting with tarot. Then at the end, she has tarot spreads, and she talks about that. There's a 1 card, 3 card. She has this really interesting adaptable spread, and then there's a panoramic photograph you can do off of that, and it looks really, really interesting. I haven't tried it out myself, so I can't tell you what I think of it. Oh, and there's also the difference engine, which it looks really interesting too. So she's got some different spreads in here that look like they're going to be really fun to try, even if you're a seasoned tarot reader. It's not just like the 1 card and the 3 card like you get with some decks. So I really recommend the Steampunk Tarot. Absolutely love this deck. I'm really enjoying getting to know it and working with it more and more. And I really love the artwork, and I especially love the guidebook. So if you're looking to purchase this deck, I highly recommend it, especially if you're just beginning. It's a great intro into tarot because the guidebook is so comprehensive. You know, if you don't have a separate intro to tarot book, you can still get started with this tarot deck. So it's an absolutely beautiful deck, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.